Well, thank you for joining us for this summer seminar. It's our very first with Hypurpley, and Hypurpley is our publishing company we use to help authors who are either beginning authors or children's authors who want to work with a traditionally Christian focused group of people and publish their own books. We help walk you through that process. We wanted to offer some really good workshops that would benefit you as a writer and as a future writer. And so our first guest I'm so excited to have tonight, and I know him as Chris. His pen name, what are your initials?
CP Landry.
CP Landry, and he has written the series, the Cajun Kids novels. If you haven't read them, you should check them out. They're really great. He is from Louisiana. It's like God is taking him on a roller coaster ride with his books and his publishing experience, and he's got a lot to share with us tonight. Thank you, Chris, for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here, and it definitely has been a roller coaster ride.
I've known you and your wife now for a while. Jade is
We
her
met you.
name, and
Yep, Jade. We met you 2 years ago for the very
yeah.
first time.
And so it's been kind of fun. We bump into each other at the different events, and it's just been a lot of fun. Well, our focus is on marketing for this episode for indie authors. So what are some ways that we can get our books out there in the world, just in general? If you were just going to give some general quick advice to writers, what would you say?
Well, this is kind of unique in its way that we have everything I'm going to share with you today is literally still wet concrete. We have just started this process ourselves. Just a little over 2 years ago, our first book, we were ready to publish it. We wrote the first three books pretty quick and decided to do three back to back. And so we put our first three books out, and it was a very big learning experience for us. And if you don't mind, I'll share with you real quick my background. We were over 40 years in the oil and gas business. And in the oil and gas business, it's a need business. It is a now business. If we got a call and they said it was ExxonMobil or Chevron and said, we need this on a platform, or we need a load of pipe, or it was going to happen. It had to happen right away. Either we were going to do it or one of the competitors was going to do it. So this is the first time we had ever stuck our toes into the want business. And what I mean by that is nobody needs a book, but people want a book. So there's no librarian who walks in and looks at our shelves and go, I need to buy books today. They have a building full of books. So it was the first time that we'd ever gotten to a business where you have to convince someone that they want your book. It's not a need thing anymore. It's not they're going to run out and buy it because they have to. It's almost like being in a restaurant business. You have to have something that they really want to kind of keep them coming back. So this was our first time in this kind of business where we had to literally sell ourselves, but not only selling our product. In the oil and gas business, we sold our product. It was established. It was, people knew our reputation. So as a brand new author, it was very unique for us to go into a situation, a homeschool convention or a book festival, and not only try to sell our books, but try to sell the concept of our books, try to sell what was behind our books, what went into our books, the character building, the family values, all the things we were trying to put in there. So it was a very unique experience having to be in that want business and having to get into that. So our very first real marketing experience, because we were a homeschool family for over 20 years, so we decided to take our first three books to a homeschool convention. We were supposed to have three. We only showed up with two. One of them was stuck at the printer. They had ran into some problems with paper, and it was coming out of COVID. There were paper shortages. So we showed up there and we did okay. We got a few books out there. When I said okay, we thought we were doing okay, because we get in there, and I think our very first event we sold 67 books, and
That's
it
good.
was a pretty good deal. But people liked the concept of our books. They liked the fact that they were family friendly. But the homeschool community is very open arms. They're very accepting. They're one of the few communities that will just walk up and have a conversation with you. You don't feel like you're selling as much. But we knew we had to have a market outside of that, and that's when we decided to start looking at some other events. Probably, I would say, book festivals and book events, educational type events were probably our next step into going into some of that stuff. So that was also a learning curve for us, being able to go to these kind of things and do those kind of events. So,
Well, how did you find those events? I know the homeschool events, they publicize all over social media and everywhere. They're easy to find. What about the book events? What kind of You mentioned libraries at library events too, or something, right?
Yep, we did a library, a small librarians convention here in Louisiana. Every state has a state librarians convention, whether it's school librarians, public librarians, or also here in Louisiana, where we're very fortunate, they do theirs together. So the School Librarians Association and the State Librarians Association, which is all public libraries, they all have their same meeting together every year. They're in Baton Rouge, which is great for us. It's an hour away. So we went for 2 days, and that was a great contact meeting for us. Our books were just starting to get established. We had 4 books out. Our 5th book was about to break loose, and we were starting to get a little bit of a name for ourselves. And I think that was more of a contact. You don't go there hoping to sell. I mean, we sold books to people who brought them back to grandchildren and children and nieces and nephews. But those kind of events were more exposure, getting in there, exposing the books, exposing ourselves. And I'm gonna say this, and it is something that there's 2 things that we've kind of taken into our new business model. And I don't want to scare anybody off when I say this, but we have found out something. We met a gentleman at one of the events who was a very, very successful author. He's a 6-figure author. He travels the country. He does a lot of different things. And he gave me some great advice. And what we learned from it is that authors don't sell books. Books sell authors. People will pick up your book and they will read it. And if they like it, it's literally the first step of your relationship. They want to know what you're doing next. They want to know
Mhm.
what's the next book about. And I know this sounds crazy, but it was hard for me because I'm a little bit of an introvert. That's why this is so nervous for me right now. You met us at the book events. Jay talks, and I'm kind of takes me a while to come out. But what was different about it was people, they want to be a fan. And when I
Mm.
say that, it's not that you're looking for groupies. I don't want that to come out the wrong way. They want to be involved in something new, fresh, something exciting, something that's happening. And so that was a really, really like a turning point for us, because
Mhm.
that's when I realized Jade had kind of been the front person at that time because she's really good at marketing. She has a great personality. She can talk to a cricket on a fence. I mean, she can talk to anybody. But I realized, and she said, you're going to have to step out, be a front man. You're going to have to do on our website. You're going to have to talk about the writing experience. You're going to have to go on there sometimes and talk about the new books coming out. And it really changed our perspective. And it was a real launch for us to do that. I'm getting better at being the front person for our books. I would prefer to have her as the publisher, kind of leading the charge, and I'm in the background writing. But I say that because for anyone right now who is wanting to, especially children's book, looking to get out there, looking to sell some books, the only way you're going to do it is to be out there and with your face in front of everyone.
Yeah.
The first year in homeschooling, they came to our booth several times and said, would you like to do a workshop? Or would you like to do this? And I was like, no possible way am I standing in front of a group of people and doing a workshop. I'm not going to go in. And they said, yeah, but you have over 25 years of homeschooling experience with all your children. You have so much. And I was like, no possible way. And then I realized that was ways to get my face in front of people. The state library thing, when we got offered to be a feature last year, I would have said no possible way, because this is a huge event. This is going to be 20,000 people. There'll be workshops. There's going to be an author tent where I'm going to have to talk about my series and talk about developing our books. And that one's going to be a little bit easier for me because I get to share some of our Louisiana culture and how the books tie into my growing up as a real Cajun, hunting and fishing in the swamps and marshes. So, but the only way to get books out there is front and center, face in front of people. And that sounds kind of strange in today's world with everything going electronic and everything going social media and all that. But we found that there's been a couple months where we kind of stepped back and said, I told Jade, I said, I really need to focus on my writing. You really need to focus on illustrations. We got to get this next book out. And we've noticed if we pull back into the creative stage and start working on that, and we're not doing an event every other week, we will watch our sales, online sales, our Amazon sales, everything would just start diving, because it was just amazing that people want to see you out there front and center.
Mhm.
And we also live, and you know this, we also live in a 30-second attention span world. People will walk into your booth just like they do mine. They get excited about something. And then they're just so thrilled about it, and they walk away, and you never hear another thing from
Gone.
them again. Yes, exactly. And it's because the world we live in, so they have to see. I mean, we've been doing this for 2 years now. We just finished our second cycle of homeschool events. We did several of them a second time. They bought 3 books last year. Books 4 and 5 are out. They will walk into our booth and went, "Oh my gosh, my kids loved your books. We read them 3 times. We have been waiting for more Cajun Kids books." And I go, we have them online and they're also on Amazon, but they won't go. They don't realize how much they love your books, how much they want your books until they see you again, that
Mm.
FaceTime. So they'll come in and they'll buy a set of books. They'll buy the rest of the books. They'll talk a friend into buying a set. And it's just really been amazing how much physical FaceTime you have to put into this business in order to sell your books, in order to market your books. And also, like I said, to sell yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's hard because most of us as writers are introverts.
Yes,
I've been
absolutely.
a teacher for over 30 years, so that helps me with those workshop situations. I'm okay with that. But in the booth, just talking about my books and talking to people is so hard. And my husband's an extrovert, so he's like your wife. He just talks to people. Everybody's like, he sells your stuff really well. Yeah, he does. I
Yep.
try,
Yep.
but it's really challenging. I think God puts us outside our comfort zone a lot in this business and in this
Absolutely.
calling for sure. Really quickly, we were talking about, you said book, I'm trying to think what you called them. Tell me about the other kinds of venues besides homeschooling, the library groups, and then you said book fairs or book,
Yeah, book fairs and book festivals.
that's the word,
We've
yeah.
done, we actually, this will be we've done 2 of our Louisiana State book festivals. Those are fantastic. We've been very fortunate both times. We had great weather. They do them the last weekend of October or the first weekend of November here in
Oh,
Louisiana.
nice.
So we get great weather. It's promoted huge. And that's a great, book festivals are good because you're going to get 2 audiences. You're going to get people who want to go out and do something for the day. They're going to be downtown. They want to go there. They always do it in conjunction with a big, huge farmer's market. So you're
Yeah.
gonna have bleed over from the huge farmers market. But then outside of people just going out to enjoy the day, book lovers show up to book festivals. They
Mm.
want to come see the newest authors. They want to come see the newest things that are out. Probably 10-15% of the people who come by the booth are people who want to be authors. They just want to come pick your brain and talk about the writing process. So, I mean, and I'm amazed at how many adults will buy our books because they want to be a children's book writer.
Oh,
So it's really kind of crazy because they want to see. Listen, I'm gonna be honest. I did the same thing when we started this journey during COVID. I went back and reread some of my kids' classics. I went back and read a couple of the Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys. I read several of the Boxcar Children to get a feel for what I was trying to do, to get a feel
mm.
for where I wanted to go with it. I knew my storyline, but I just needed to get into that groove of things. And I will be honest with you, I was not a writer, but I did meet I think I've told you at one of the events we were at, I met my kids call her my guardian angel. We met a lady who was a retired English professor, and we met her by accident. And she sent me a beautiful email and got it through my email through a friend and said, "I just finished reading your first 3 books." And she gave me this great praise. She says, "You are a natural at storytelling. The way you develop a scene, the way that you develop characters." She said, "You have a natural gift from God to
Mm.
do that." And then she had a big old however in the middle of the email, all in caps. And it said, "However, you are not a good writer." And she said, she followed it up. She says, "And do not be offended by that." She said, "Because storytelling is the gift from God, but writing is just a craft." And she gave such a beautiful example. She said, "Imagine if you wanted to become a cabinet builder. Imagine what your first set of cabinets would look like." She said, "Then imagine what your 50th set of cabinets look like, or your 100th set of cabinets." She said, "It's just a craft that you develop over time." So she gave me a couple online courses to watch. She gave me, of course, she gave me several books to read. My daughter had already given me the Greg reference manual and said, "Keep this on your desk." So a lot of those kind of things. But I was fortunate. I had a couple people that God put in my life on the very early part of the journey that kind of encouraged me. And then, because I got a first couple of negative reviews you get, you want to, if she wouldn't have told me that, I think I would have taken them to heart. I had a lady who left us a review on one of our sites and said, "My children love the books, but it's not exceptionally well written." And I went back and
Mm.
said, "That's so awesome. That is so awesome." Because I realized I could become a better writer. The children loved the story, but
Yeah.
she wasn't impressed with the writing. And I thought, that may not be a home run, but I made it to third base on that one. You know what I'm saying? Because I realized I could develop that skill over time. So I hope
Yeah.
that's another thing that early writers grasp onto, is that please don't try to write, your first novel to be War and Peace and think that it's all going to be perfect. Because matter of fact, this week I'm focusing on the lady who's helping me. She actually went through my books again with us this week and we did some updating on a few things and revisions on how I write. And listen, I'll be honest with you, I still can't see a dangling participle, but she can spot it from about 20 miles away. So, so little things like that we're still working on and trying to get better on. So
That's awesome. I love that
yeah,
so much.
yeah.
But that is encouraging because if we've got a good story to tell and we're good storytellers, there's hope.
There's hope, and there's help. I
Yes.
mean, and that's the thing. There are so many people out there. I And I'll tell you, I never knew how many people I know personally that I've known for 20 years or more, that when I published my first book came in and said, I started writing a book years ago, or I'm trying to write a book. And I know you probably seen that too, where you meet
Hmm.
people, well, you've never told me that. And they're kind of embarrassed by it. But anyway, so you meet people every day. So just the people who are willing to help and to read and be beta readers for us. I mean, we had several people in education line of work that offered to be beta readers for us early in the beginning. And those were great. And listen, it's hard to tell them, I need you to be tough. I need some
Yeah.
tough love on this review. Be honest. And so we were able to get great feedback, and still. I'm still growing as a writer, still adjusting as a writer. I know I'm not anywhere where I need to be, but we're getting there. We had
Mm.
last week. We sent one of our. I guess probably get into the marketing side of it. I guess I could tell real quick.
Okay.
We've met a book distributor who's interested in picking up our book, and they said, but we can't pick you up unless you do a Kirkus review. And of course, I saw your face when I said Kirkus review. Writers are scared of Kirkus. They're very strict. If they don't like your book, they're going to tell you. And it's
Mm.
hard to get a positive review from Kirkus. Only I think the person that contacted me from Kirkus said less than 10% get a Kirkus star or a Kirkus
Wow.
positive, really kind of. So anyway, we sent in our book one, and it's a 9-week process. So I would went ahead and set my schedule where for the first week I threw up, and then the second week I prayed. The third week I threw up. The fourth week I prayed. So, so, but we did. They came back with a positive review and gave us the Kirkus check, a get it check, with telling people to get the book. So we were excited about that, and so now we have a little bit more credibility moving forward with some of these book distributors.
That is
Uh,
amazing. Congratulations.
but
That's
thank you.
awesome.
And I'm still not a great writer, so that gives me hope.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I wanted you to talk about when you were doing your book signing. You may have done more book signings since we talked about Barnes and Noble, but that's
yes.
something that's really hard for an indie author to do. So tell us about your experience and what you did.
Okay, we thought it was going to be very difficult. We heard people say it's hard to get into Barnes and Noble to do these things. Every Barnes and Noble has a local author consignment deal. They won't always do paperbacks. They will do hardbacks for sure. And we thought it was going to be a tough event. So I just stopped by the Barnes and Noble one day, and I walked in and I asked to see the manager, and he came up and I said, I'm a new author, and we got several books out now, and I'd like to see what I need to do an author signing in the store. And he says, well, just give me a date. And I went, that's it. Yeah. And he says, no, he says, we work with local authors. We declined a national thing because you have to have the way they set orders up. If they don't sell your orders, you have to return books. And we're
Mm.
not anywhere near where somebody can order 10,000 books and then call us in 2 months and return 7,000 of them. We're not anywhere near that. Kind of like if you go Amazon fulfillment, where you fulfill your own Amazon orders, same thing.
Mhm.
So we went in, I met with him, gave him some dates, and they went in and literally walked in with our books. They scanned the barcode, put them as a temporary in their business. And we had such a great, that was our second one we did. The first one was kind of a flop. But when our fourth book was coming out, Storm Clouds, we went in and it was a great day for some reason. We had people coming in. It was kind of drizzling outside, and I think drizzling rain brings people to bookstores to go, and people started coming in, and we had a great book signing. We sold a lot of books, and before we left, the manager said, listen, I think your books are going to be something. Can we put you give you your own little end cap in the children's section, and we'll put your books up for you. So to this day, we go once a month and restock the shelves, and they got me on a consignment. They're really good about the consignment. They're only taking 40%, which is good considering a lot of the distributors, a lot of people we work with want to minimum of 55, but they're taking 40%. We have to restock the shelves. They will not call us when they're out of books. I went in there a few weeks ago and they were out of several of our books. They will only let us stock 8 of each. That's the max they'll take. And our 6th book just came out. I went in and we were sold out of a couple books. So we went in and restocked. And as a matter of fact, I probably need to go back pretty soon because summer reading. Hopefully
Oh,
the
yeah.
books are moving. So, but it was much simpler to get into Barnes and Noble. Now, if we do decide to go, there's a Barnes and Noble about an hour and 15 minutes from here. We've already talked to them by phone. They will offer to do the same thing for us, consignment. But again, they will not call us when they're out of books. They settle up with us whenever we go in and restock. They literally settle up cash out of the cash register.
Wow.
And so we've talked to them and they want to do it, but it's just going to be a little bit hard logistically
Yeah.
to be able to keep track of books if we're only allowed to put so many on the shelf. So we're debating if we can get 1 or 2 more Barnes and Nobles in that area. It's near the Capitol, near Baton Rouge. We can,
Okay.
it might be worth doing it. But listen, we're having to put some foot traffic in and having to burn some gas to get promoted right now, to get out there and promote ourselves.
Yeah. So that's good. You have to kind of weigh the expense and time and all of that
Yep.
with the benefit. I
Yep.
know here in Oklahoma, we have Mardell. Do you have Mardell?
We had one, but they closed down.
I just know it's really hard to get
Yeah.
in there for a book signing. I tried to help an author do that, and it was much more complex than Barnes and Noble. Not that you can't do it. If you know what you're doing, you can. Let's just say that. Lots of hoops to jump through.
Yeah, and there's I think for Mardell, they have a little bit more of a reputation they're looking to keep. I think their screening process is going to be a lot stricter. Barnes and Noble doesn't care what you sell as long as you get in there and they take their 40%.
Good point. One of the things I wanted to talk about too is at your events, you have a lot of extra things to buy, like stuffies, little stuffed animals, and cool, cute things. Compasses, I believe you have too, that go along with your theme of your books. How did you decide what to do without breaking the bank? Because that's been one of the things that I find difficult with our booth as well.
Well, that was Jade's idea, and it has turned out to be a wonderful thing. We have each of our books has an animal character that's blended in with the storyline. We didn't realize we had the animal character kind of blended in. We didn't plan it from the beginning. It wasn't a thought that we said, let's do. But going into book 4, we realized that every one of them had an animal character that's blended in. So she came up with the book. You saw our book and friend idea, where it's a little burlap sack that she buys for like 50 cents online at some little thing. And we put whatever animal goes with that book. And that is more for the parent who does read aloud, the parent who does trying to encourage a beginning reader where they get the animal to go with the book. But we were able to do things like that. Our books are outdoor books. The kids use their flashlights, their binoculars, their compasses. In all of the storylines, they're always outdoors. They're always doing something. They're catching a bad guy or helping save someone. So that was her idea to come up with this. And I really didn't want to get into the merchandise business. Same thing you're saying. I didn't want to have to take out a spare room in my house to store stuff and all this. But I was impressed at how easily she went online. And because we set up our own little, we're a hybrid publishing company. We have our own, we're considered indie, but we started a little publishing company called Excalibur Publishing. It's a little LLC that we started. And because we were able to do that, she was able to go in and get us corporate accounts and with tax exempt status from a lot of these major retailers. So, or major wholesalers, I mean. So she's able to go in and buy all of the merchandise we use, setting up accounts with different, and she searches. She'll spend an hour or 2 at a time sometimes in there trying to find somebody to get our stuffies or to get our outdoor gear. And we've done it enough now where we're actually at events and people come up and give her a card and say, we supply these if y'all want to do these. So, but more than and we don't make a ton of money on the merchandise, but I would tell you this: it draws people to the booth. You see how cute she sets our booth up. I mean, we have an adventure station with all of the adventure items and all of her. She does her binoculars and her headlamps, and she has compasses and all these slingshots. And a couple of the books they use slingshots, so she has her slingshots, and it just draws people in. We got approached at one of the Christmas markets we was doing in Baton Rouge last year by a gentleman who came in and said, y'all really need to do our outdoor expo. It was boats and hunting gear and fishing gear. And I went, we sell books. He said, I'm telling you, He said, y'all need to try it the first year. So he kind of gave us a cut on a booth and said, would y'all please come try it just the first year? And not only was it a new audience for us, but we did fantastic there because it was people go to these things with their kids. And there
Yeah,
was not a kid that came by our booth that didn't run in and touch something. And when the
cool.
parents come in, they ask, so what is this all about? And we say, well, it's a chapter book series, and it's about outdoors. It's about hunting, fishing, and all kinds of different things that we do, mysteries. And it was a great, great chance for us to market ourselves and get us out there. So the merchandise in the booth has to be eye catching, and it's
Mhm.
mainly there for there for a draw. And I'm not going to lie. I hope there's going to be a day in the near future where we will not have to do that to draw people in our booth. I would love to be out of the merchandise business, but for now, it really is. It's fun. It makes the booth pop. We get
Yeah.
so many compliments on our booth, and we also have our Cajun stuff going on. We have our shrimp trawl and all of our old wood stuff, and our raccoon signs and alligators all over. So that kind of helps out. But it's really about getting people into your booth and getting them something extra. We move a lot of that stuff when parents say, "Listen, I'll buy you a slingshot, but you got to promise to read a book." But mainly, it's strictly for marketing. It's to spice it up, to be an eye catcher, to have people walk by your booth and look and go, "What is that? That is so
Yeah.
cool." So
And the way you guys or Jade arranges everything, it's very inviting and not um, cluttered. Because I know sometimes
correct.
we've had such a small booth and I put too much in it and I feel like it's too cluttered and
Hmm.
people are just overwhelmed. Yours never feels that way. Yours just feels very inviting. And so
Good.
we have to watch that. I've watched videos on YouTube about how to arrange your booth so it's not
Good.
overwhelming and is more inviting. And so if anyone who's listening is struggling with that, I advise going looking on YouTube because they have some good advice there for how to arrange your booth.
Well, I'm gonna tell you one of her, and I'll give you one of her secrets. I probably shouldn't give you all of her secrets, but the first thing she does when she gets in the booth is she drags all the tables out and she drags the chairs out and she tells the people setting up, "Get those out of here. I don't need them."
Wow.
We never do a large table. We never do chairs. We have a little pop-up stool that flips down flat and will slide in a gap 2 inches wide. Of course, you've seen, we make our booth, and when you walk in, it's a U shape. We have all of our stuff set up where people can just walk in, and when we set up a small 4-foot table as our checkout station and a place to set our things and to set our book rack. Because you're right, the problem with these conventions is that if you have two people that you're talking to in your booth, people can't come in and look because you're
Yeah.
full.
Yeah.
There's no room to move around. So we really focus hard on making it a floor plan that where if you're talking with a customer or something's going on, that there's room for other people. We always split everything. We put books on both sides. We
Smart.
put books on a rack on one side, on shelves on this side. And the goal is if somebody comes in, you walk them over here to take a look at the books because there's books over there if somebody else walks in behind them. So we always try to split our booth where we don't just have one item in one place. We kind of have it so scattered. And then if we do end up with a good enough booth, a large enough booth, or we end up on an end cap or somewhere where we have that corner, we have a little small 4-foot round table we'll put on the very corner and we'll just stack it up with books where people can just come by and kind of touch it and see them.
Nice. I like
Yep.
that.
So,
Okay. And
look at my
let's,
notes here. Make sure we don't run out of time before we talk about everything.
so do you buy ads? And if you do, have you found them beneficial? What ones would you recommend? And what kind of a budget would you recommend for ads?
We we do not buy ads yet. We are
Okay.
at the point now where I think we're about to. Now, some of the homeschool conventions, they will give you a little,
Oh, yeah.
for 25, $50, they'll give you a quarter page or a lot of them. Some of them actually, if you're, depending on what kind of booth you get, they'll throw it in there for you, or some of them are complimentary. They'll give you a little blurb in the thing as a vendor. But we haven't got into buying ads, and we are almost at the point where we're about to start doing it. Because of our positive Kirkus review last week, we actually got a call from Kirkus. They sent an email and asked if they could visit with us by phone. And they gave a really good sales pitch on why we should, buy the little $300 quarter page ad with the Kirkus magazine. And so we're not quite there because we haven't run into anybody that has told us they hugely benefited from it.
Okay.
And we talk to authors. We share a lot with other authors so that they'll share
Mhm.
with us. That's why we're very, very open about talking about where we're at and what it's taken to get here. Hoping the other authors will do that, but we haven't gotten a huge huge feedback from that. We do spend a little bit of extra money doing boosts on our social media, on our Facebook and Instagram. I think that's probably, if you say we had an advertising budget, we will spend the $20 or $25, whatever it is, once a month to do a boost on our Facebook or Instagram if we have a new book coming out, if we have something really good coming up, if we're going to be doing a big festival, or if we have I know like the month before the book festival, we'll probably do two $25 boost on our social media to let people know we're going to be at the Baton Rouge Book Festival, because they'll come seek you out if they're kind of a fan and they follow you a
Yeah.
little bit. So we do spend a little bit of advertising money there, but we know we're going to have to start budgeting for it. But the hole in the bottom of our barrel is much bigger than the hole in the top of our barrel. You know what I'm saying? In the
I
money
totally
barrel.
do. Yes.
so,
Very,
so,
very true.
yes. So I never knew being an author would be such an expensive hobby, but I know we're getting there, and I'm be happy to share with you when we do start, to let
Okay.
you know if we see an uptick in anything. So we're kind of waiting to see where this is going to take us on this next phase. So we went ahead and we turned right around and put in our newest release in the Kirkus, so we could have more than one in the review. So we're kind of going to see where that's go. And Terrie, it's amazing, and you're gonna I know you're gonna relate to this. Every time we think that we've made another hurdle, that we are educated in the fact that there's a bigger one right behind it, and then there's a bigger one right behind it. So every time we make this jaunt into this, getting into some of the programs we've been involved in now, getting into the public school system, just got
Mhm.
approved to be in the Katy, Texas school. They were on what's called their tile. Our books got
Okay.
approved to be on the tile for the Katy public libraries, school libraries. I mean, but every time we do this, we were so excited. We got an email from them saying, "Hey, Cajun kids, y'all are approved on the tile." And they said, "Okay, well, how do we get our books into the libraries?" They go, "You're going to have to figure out how to market them." Okay. So, and that's the thing. It's just learning all those. And every day we get up and we just take another step forward. We know it's going to be a little bit of a long journey, and that's the way we work. Jade and I have always been people, when we did something, we literally jumped in waist deep. We never
Mhm.
we don't dabble in things. We just kind of go for it.
Yeah, I'm kind
So
of the same way. Jump in with both feet
yeah.
and regret it later.
Yes, exactly. But no regrets. We're doing
It's always
the
learning.
reward for the payment for what we're getting now is when we go to an event. And when the one we were just in the Woodlands, and last year we had a mom came by. She had one reader. The younger of the two was an avid reader, and the 10-year-old did not like reading at all. And I said, "Why not?" And his mom said he's a good reader. He just was not motivated. He was very reluctant, didn't want to read. And so I always wear my alligator tooth necklace. I have an alligator tooth necklace. So I took it off and I asked his mom, I said, "Can I offer him a gift?" And she said, "Yes." I took him my alligator tooth necklace and I said, "I will give you my necklace, my alligator tooth. This is an alligator that we harvested. I hunted it myself. I'll give you my necklace if you will read." And I picked our funniest book at the time, volume 3. I said, "If you will read this book, I'll give you my necklace." And he says, "Okay." And I made him shake on it. Well, his name's Nathan. They came back to the Woodlands to the homeschool thing at the Woodlands when we were there a few weeks ago. His mom said he went home, read that book, turned around, read all the rest of our books in the series,
That's
and
awesome.
now he's an avid reader.
That's
And
amazing.
and it was just that one little thing to get him started, and that's the payment for what we do. You know that.
Yeah.
It's a little gift from God where he just kind of he throws you a little nugget and says, this is it. This is what you need.
Mhm.
This is why you do what you do.
One of the things with our booth, because we're mostly ministering to parents, and to get to pray with them and talk with the struggles they're
Yes,
having, and encouraging them and helping their kids be successful, especially as readers. And it's just been amazing. I love the live events for that reason alone.
absolutely.
Well, I know you mentioned Katy, Kansas. Did I say the right one? Was it Kansas?
Texas, Katy, Texas. Yeah.
Texas. Okay, I get them mixed up. But you're also on the AR, Accelerated Readers
Reader.
List. Tell us about that.
Okay, that is, we have a saying, we like to throw mud against the wall and see what sticks. We threw a lot of mud against the wall. We found out about the AR program. We had a local school. We had a librarian came and said, "Miss, a couple of my kids got your books from somebody who donated them. They love them. And would you consider uh, developing, you have to have so many reviews to get into AR. And I'm talking a lot, like
Okay.
thousands of reviews, requests to get
Oh,
into the AR program. So
okay.
what you have to do is you have to get your book into the hands of people, let the kids read them, and then if they think they're good, they'll request them through the AR site. And this was a
Okay.
long process for us. We started it at the very beginning, and we made what's called, and this is going to sound funny, we made what's called a plead sheet. And it is exactly what it is. We made up, we named it and everything. It was just a plea. We were pleading. Every event we went to, we would do 4 to a page and we'd cut them. And somebody come by and they'd say, hey, let's hold, the books look good. Or my kid read your book, it was good. And we would say, do you have a child or you know any children that are in AR program? And about half of them would say, yeah. And we said, would you take our plead sheet and request us? And so for 2 years, that's what we did. We pleaded with
Mhm.
every chance we got. And it paid off for us. We had a fortunate to be able to have a couple schools that really wanted our books in them. Some of the local schools, some of the schools here in Louisiana, who were looking for a little bit of our own culture to put in their schools.
Mm.
We were fortunate to be able to have them uh, work with us, telling parents and telling other librarians, we really want these schools, they really want these books in our AR program. But AR, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's a tough one. And you can't drop the ball on it. You have to constantly, every time you're around a group, no matter what kid. We actually had people, even in a homeschool environment, who would come in who have kids. Some of the kids are homeschooling and some are going to school outside of the home.
Mhm.
And they'll say, yeah, well, I got 2 kids that are AR and I'm homeschooling 2 of them. A lot of time, the older kids will end up in school. And so we would say, hey, would you mind requesting us? If you like our books, would you request us? So we got into thing for 2 years. That's what we did. And then we were almost 2 years into the plead process. And then we got a email from them saying that we had got enough requests that they were going to allow our first book in. So we got into with the first book. And then once we got that initial contact, we were able to kind of work with them. We were really able to, and also once our first book was up on their site, people started requesting more because the kids are reading it for the points. And I don't know if you know much about AR, but
Yes.
68% of all schools in the U.S. are part of the Accelerated Reader program. And so, as a children's book author who writes for my age group, that
Mhm.
middle group, that kind of 8 to 12. That really heart of a middle grade are a must. You're never going to move books off the shelf. You're only going to capture so many homeschool families. You're only going to capture so many book festivals, things like that. You have to get a national audience. You
Mm.
have to be you have to be where the books are moving. And that's in the AR program. And they do an exceptional job of the company called Renaissance, who puts it on. The program they have set up, and that's why so many schools have gone to it. They have just the way that they've set it up, the way that they've monitor it with the schools, and the way they
Mhm.
make it. It's a simple thing to use for both parents and students. So for a lot of these schools, especially the large school districts who don't have the resources to handle book reports and to handle all these things that they have going, for the summer reading program, they can pick up my book out of the public library here in Louisiana and still make it part of their reading program now that it's in the AR system. Yeah.
Well, and
So
it's even overseas. When we were missionaries in Taiwan, one of the missionary school used AR. That's where I
yeah,
first was introduced to it.
yeah,
Um,
they're worldwide. They do a
yeah.
fantastic job putting it together. So
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, let's see. We covered most of everything. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. One of the things that impresses me with you and your wife is that from the beginning, it seems you've treated this as a business, even though you said it was an expensive hobby. It seems that you've really treated it as a business. Most of the writers I meet, including myself, know very little about business. So, could you just briefly go over how you've kept track of what you're doing and how your sales are doing, and how do you manage all of that without losing your mind?
first thing, I'll go to the first part of the lead into this question first, and that you said most authors don't treat it like a business. I am absolutely amazed because I can tell you, we were in business for ourselves for over 40 years. I am amazed at how many authors who want to be authors have never set a goal. I
Mm,
meet authors. When I first joined the guild, I would ask authors, where would you like to see your writing go? They don't have an answer. What's crazy is if you decided you wanted to be an Olympic athlete, you would train, you would set goals. If you wanted to be in business, if you were going to open a restaurant, if you were to do a food truck, even something as simple as a food truck, you would set goals. I need to be here in a year. I need to be here in 6 months. I need to be doing this to make my food truck better. I need to be doing this. I'm amazed at how many authors I meet that want to be successful authors, have no game plan, have never written down their goals. I'm amazed at some of the ones who have never entered a contest. One of the first things we did very early out, when our first book came out, right when it was out, the American Writing Awards is a very inexpensive platform to use. I think it's only $25 an entry or something like that. It's really reasonable. And then they have a side off of the American Writing Awards called CBI, Children's Book International, that
Oh,
focuses strictly on children's book. We entered our book, and our first thing out, we got a finalist. The next year, we actually won in one of the categories. So it makes you, first off, it makes you an award-winning author. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but you would not believe the weight it carries when somebody
it
walks in
does.
your booth and go, "You won an award with this book?" And then
Mhm.
you, as you start getting established, make sure that you're entering more of those contests, make sure you're getting out there. But please, if you want to be a successful author, set goals. Set goals for your writing, set goals for what you would like to achieve. And listen, if you want to be if you're that writer who just, the only thing you want to do is just to see a book in print, that's great. That, because I meet a lot of people who do that. They just say, before I die, I just want to publish a book. I just want to see it in print. And it's so easy nowadays to do that with all of the platforms, the Amazon platform and all these platforms. But I would say set goals.
Mhm.
And as far as the business side of it, we do treat it like a business. I have a very simple business program on my computer. Every time we get an order, they're all invoiced. Everything we do is invoiced. Um, book festival we do, or homeschool event, when we
Mhm.
come back, we total up our sales. An invoice is made, is deposited into our little Cajun Kids account. We treat that because we have to be able to track it. And it's not
Mhm.
so much that we're, of course we do it for tax purposes.
Right.
We hope in one day we'll actually have to pay a tax on a profit. But anyway, but not only is it just that's my side of the business. I'm very specific about it because we were in business for so many years, having to deal with regulatory agencies, IRS, all these government agencies, and what we did, because what we did was very specific and very regulated. So
Mhm.
that's where I am. I'm very specific about how we do that. So anytime if we do a sale to the Barnes and Noble right here in town, we go in and we do how many books went out, and we do our 60% minus their 40% commission. We have a little invoice. It tracks where we're at with that. And it was impressive for us. Our first year out, we book came out in November, and then so we ended up with 2 books out that year, and we worked hard. Our third book came out in October, and in that first year, we were able to accumulate $22,000 in sales. And that was literally not knowing anything about what we were doing.
Mhm.
Absolutely nothing. We printed a price on our ISBN barcode, not knowing that you didn't have to do that. Our first 2
Mhm.
books came out. We went, okay, now we got to get rid of these books because we didn't know you. I mean, listen, I'm still meeting authors today who are on their second or third book, who think that you still have to put a price on your ISBN. You do
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
When
you
you
were
when
the
you
one who told me, and that was
Yeah,
the first time I knew I didn't have to, so I stopped. I only
yeah,
have it on one
yeah.
book.
When you get to the bottom and it says put your price in, type 000, and then when you go to enter it, it's gonna take it completely off by putting the price at 0. And so, because we learned that along the way, we picking up little tips like that. But we do treat it like a business. We do, like I told you, everything we do, we jump in waist deep. It's just the way we've always been, and we know this is a calling for us. We know it's a
Yeah.
mission, and I'll there's so much garbage seeping into the hearts and minds of our young readers nowadays with agenda driven books and all these things. And I'm going to be honest with you. We made a decision not to put scripture in our books. We made a
Mhm.
decision not to do that at the beginning, even though our books are very Christian based and all that kind of stuff. We did it because we truly wanted to treat this as a mission. One of the most beautiful um, compliments I ever got was a pastor friend of mine said, I'm preaching through the front door and you're preaching through the back door.
I
Okay.
like that.
We find a way because I want a kid to be able to pick up a book get lost in the adventure, get lost in all that, and then without even realizing it, learn family values, learn
Hmm.
character building, and not be inundated with garbage. And I know that's one of the reasons that we've seen some success with our books, because I know it's ordained by God. I know that He has His hand on it, and that's going to continue to be our mission: is to get out there, and we're going to work our tails off to get these books into the hands of young readers, and show that there's nothing wrong with picking up a good book and just getting lost in it.
Yeah. Well, and that's one reason when I've talked about your books with people, I say it's like a modern Little House on the Prairie in a way, because it's a series, number one, about family, but those values are just woven in as it's just part of the story. It's not
Yeah.
preaching at anybody. It's not, it's just well done.
Thank you.
And so that, yeah, I wasn't, I didn't want to embarrass you or anything, but that's always how I describe it because that's the
Mhm.
vibe, that's the feel when I'm reading those books. It's just a good, wholesome read that you get drawn into and enjoy. And I think that's awesome.
Thank you very much. It's been a fun process to do. I definitely have to, of course, give credit to God, but most of all, and the everybody else that was involved. It's been a fun process. I'm fortunate I have a wife and kids who support me and help me out with ideas and doing different things. So it's been fun, but it's been tiring, but it's been fun. So
Well, before we finish tonight, I want to just ask you one more question. How do you publish your books? Who do you go through, or how do you make sure you're getting quality? Because that's one thing I notice with indie authors. Some just, like you said, just want to have a book published. My first book I published, I didn't publish for the world. I published it for family and friends. And we sold out of them because we only did a certain number of copies because it was for family and friends, and they kept giving them to other people. So that was kind of cool. But when I publish a book now, I want to have quality, and I've done a few through Amazon, and it seems their quality has gone down, in my not so humble opinion, and
yeah,
I
well,
don't want that.
I hope they're not listening. The only reason I am still published, I still have books on Amazon site, is as an author, you have to have books on Amazon for credibility.
Yeah.
You have to, because you will have people who will say, "Well, is your books on Amazon?" You say,
Hmm.
"Yeah, that are our website cheaper," and they'll go, "Well, I'll buy from Amazon." So credibility, and for those people who won't go, is the reason we have our books on Amazon. The books that we have friends get from Amazon, I am amazed at the poor quality. I cannot believe that they are allowing some of these. I don't know how many people know how they work, but Amazon doesn't print books. They use contract printers all over the country, and it's just these small independent companies. If we order two books on Amazon, and we don't order them together where they're not printed at the same contract facility, they will
Hmm.
come in two completely different colors.
Yep.
One will be a light green, one will be a dark green. One of them you can barely see the print on the pages. The other one is so dark that it's blurred. They and it's how they set up and how they do. One of the printers we actually used for a run on one of our books was actually an Amazon contract printer. So, and that's when I found out a little bit more about that their program and how it works to do that. But yeah, the quality at Amazon, I'm very disappointed in. And I would think for a company that is the largest book dealer in the world that they'd be a little bit more into quality control, but they're not. We do our hardbacks through Ingram Spark, and although their shipping department is horrible, we get books where they'll just throw books in without any packing, without any paper, and
Oh,
they come
wow.
in and the boxes are busted up. But the quality of their hardbacks is off the chain. We should have one. I'm gonna take this off for just a second and grab one.
Okay.
I should have been more prepared and had one ready. But I'll hold this up for everybody to see. We get a matte finish on our books, and this is the hardbacks, the what they call it, not perfect bound, but anyway, and their interior work, the cream paper, it's
Hmm.
just it's good. We get so many compliments on our hardbacks with Ingram Spark. We are just getting our paperbacks done. We have a distributor who will not buy our hardbacks from Ingram unless we have our paperbacks available also. So we
Okay.
just got our first samples back. They look pretty good. They're definitely better quality than Amazon, but we're going to have those up on our Ingram site as well. As far as our larger runs, we go with independent printers.
Hmm.
We search them out. We find other authors who are getting larger runs. Them I say larger runs. We just had to do excuse me, a 1,500 run on our book. Our book 5 was the fastest selling book we ever sold. We did a 1,500 run. We had over 300 pre-orders come in, and we were out of that book in about 3 months. So
Wow.
we had to turn right around and do another one. And those are good because we when you get into the larger runs, you get some better pricing. I'm not going to give any names of the printers we use over, on this, but I'll give them to you privately, just because I don't know how all that works. I don't know if I can promote some or talk bad about others. But we've had a couple of them that have the quality is not much better than Amazon, even on a little bit larger run. We've had some of them that are exceptional, but they've priced themselves out of the market. Our first printer we used was out of the South Florida area. They did. And I wish I could still use them, but they've kind of priced themselves out the market for us. So we're
Mm.
always looking for shopping for price. And of course, as you get established with someone, your price always starts to gradually go up, and then you leave, and then they take you back with a little bit lower price, later on. But we've got some the run that we had done 2 weeks ago on book 5. We had to reprint 5. Turned out amazing. It's a first time with this company, and I'm hoping that this is going to be a long-term relationship. Very easy to work with. The book quality was great. The color was off a little bit from our original print with our first printer, but it's hard to everyone's digital printing works off of different
Mhm.
color variations on their computer systems. So it's hard to match it exactly unless you actually have the color number, like your
Right.
blue is a D27 or something like that. And of course we just learned that. So now we're having to on all of our base covers and all of our on our Cajun Kids Adventure book, all of ours have the blue strip across the top. We just found out the color number of this
Oh, good.
so now when we give it to a printer, we'll tell them the blue strip across the top is a D28. And so they will be able to match those exactly. And then our back covers to be able to get I know on any book, you're always going to have some variation on color, like so with different printers. But going with independent printers to find a good independent printer, we'll
Mhm.
just start Googling. But the
Okay.
closer they are, the less your shipping costs. A tip to save money on shipping: if you're going to print something that's too much for UPS to bring to your front door, do what's called dockside pickup. So
Mm.
if you're going to order 15 or 20 cases of a book, uh, common carriers, your Saia Motor Freights or your RFL, whatever, all these big, huge freight companies,
Yeah.
they haul super, super cheap on a small pallet, but you
Cool.
can have it shipped to the closest one to your home. And when it comes in, they will call you. You run over there with your van or your pickup truck. You load them right off their dock and get them to you. Save a bunch of money on shipping. It's
Oh,
called
that's good.
dockside
Yeah.
pickup. Yeah,
Okay.
it's called dockside pickup.
Awesome.
So
This has been so much fun. Is there anything else that you want to share that we haven't covered so far?
I don't think so. I talked pretty much about making sure you enter awards. Please, 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 if you're a new author, set goals. You have to set goals because if you don't, you're never going to write that book. You're
Yeah.
never going to finish that book. And let's see, I talked about homeschool events. So FaceTime, you have to be in front of people. And I'm telling you, when we do a month without an event, we will see our online sales and our Amazon sales just fall to nothing. You have to be out there. And the people that leave your booth and say, well, I'll check it out online. A lot of them do. The week after we leave an event, our website is blowing up. We have, just
Mhm.
hundreds of hits and people going and checking out things. So make sure you have great walkaways. Make sure you have a bookmark. People don't like business cards. They don't like flyers. They want something they could use. So make sure it's a bookmark or something that they're going to use, a little magnet or something they're going to stick something on the freezer with. But we do bookmarks a lot. Our bookmarks are our latest editions coming out on the front, and then on the back we always have some neat things. For a while we actually made the back of our bookmarks our plead sheet, which was fun. The back of our bookmark would say, please, it said, please help us out, and if you know someone at AR, please recommend our books on the AR program. So always use the back of your bookmark for promo or
Yes.
for doing something that has to be done.
And I found a QR code on your business card, your bookmarks, whatever you hand out.
Yes,
My
absolutely.
business cards, I can't keep them in stock now because I put a QR code on them. And I thought people would just take the picture, but they actually take my card now because they want that QR code.
Yes.
So I've started putting that on the bookmarks too. One last question. Why did you decide to self-publish rather than traditional?
We actually kind of we knew a couple people in the publishing business. We heard some stories about how hard it was to get published.
Mhm.
We heard some horror stories about one author who was shelved. He was signed to a contract and shelved on purpose because they didn't want him competing against someone that was in his genre that they were already
Oh my
representing.
goodness.
So you hear little things like that. We also knew that, and listen, we're old. We retired from the oil business, and we ain't got 20 years to sit around and wait for this to happen. We wanted it to happen now. And nobody's going to promote your business or your books like you will.
True.
We've put our books in a couple book fairs and a couple things, and the people have left and went, "Oh, I didn't know you had a book in there." They're not going to sell you. They're not going to promote you like you will yourself. We hope one day we're popular enough and our name is big enough that we can sell without being there to talk about our book. It's great now that we go into places and people have heard of us and they come in and they go, "So and so told me about you." It's fun being able to be in that, but we had to do it in order to promote it the way we wanted to promote it. If
Mhm.
we would have literally given our books to a publishing company, especially a smaller publishing company, I know that we would have never gone anywhere. I know some guys and gals who've written some great books. We had a little girl we did an event with the other day. Her book she wrote a children's book and it's really good. But she did, and the whole time we sat there, we were neighbors at an event. She just kept asking me questions and she was writing stuff down because she really has a book that's going to go somewhere if she can get it in front of the right people. The problem is getting it in front of the right people. And if someone wants to write a book and they've never read Noah Lukeman's book, the first 5 pages, they have to read that book. When I run into people, I tell them that book will open your eyes to the publishing industry and how they work and what they do. He was a publisher for his entire life, and he wrote this book called The First 5 Pages. It really gives you the inside out of how these companies work. And we know we didn't want to do that. Plus, we also didn't want to turn over our rights. We wanted to be in
Yeah.
charge of our interior. We had a young lady who's already published 7 books, and she's with Scholastics, and she is going to be leaving them. I probably shouldn't have used their name, but she's leaving them because she signed with them, and then on one of her latest books, they told her what they wanted it to be about. They wanted to change the
Oh, wow.
format. They wanted to change things, and we didn't want to do that. I mean, we know if someone came to me and told me my books couldn't be about wholesome values and Christian values and all these kind of things, I would say, nah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. So, because that's my heart. That's why we're doing this.
Right.
So, just to be able to have control over it, do what we wanted to do, and
Mhm.
not ever have to worry about somebody putting a thumb on us or
Yeah.
shelving me because they don't like my views or they don't like, they don't like the way that I think or what I believe.
Well, and the other thing that I found with self-publishing too is I can keep my books affordable,
Correct.
because if you've got more people to pay, that price just keeps going up. And,
Yes.
we can stay competitive and we can stay where we are still making a little profit and keep the level where people can afford it. So I like that
Yep.
too.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to talk money when even at our Authors Guild. Sometimes we get people to come up and say, "Well, are you making any money in your books? Are you doing?" It's hard to talk money with a book because we're all coming in at a different place, and
Yeah.
I don't want to tell somebody that we made money on a book. And then when they don't, they get discouraged. Or I don't want to tell somebody, well, we were 2 years in this before we saw a profit, and they go, "Oh, I ain't got 2 years to wait." So it's hard.
Mhm.
It's hard to talk about the profitability, about what you're doing. It has to. I think it has to be something from the heart that's going to drive you. I think if you treat it like a business and you go into it, um, knowing you have a good product. I'm not going to say you're going to have to produce something. My goal right now with our business, with our books, and with me is every day I'm becoming a better writer.
Mhm.
I know I have we've gotten enough feedback now. We know we have a good storyline. We know that we're developing an audience and a fan base. I have to become a better writer so that I can expand that. So for me, that's my goal every day. Is I pray for God to make me a better writer, and then when I sit down to write, and He has. I mean, I'm noticing things. I'll go back and read my first book and go, I can't believe I wrote that. So little things like that.
Same.
So I'm developing that, and so I would say for those out there who want to do it, there's an avenue. Um, Amazon is a great platform to learn how to self-publish on, to get
Yeah.
your book out there. You can get them printed. Then you're not going to make money having to print them on Amazon and then get them and sell them. You might break even, but break even is how you promote your books.
Yeah.
Getting out there and doing it, and don't give books away in general. It's okay if you want to give some to a librarian or a school teacher or something, but
Hmm.
we went to an event recently, and there was a brand new author, and they weren't selling books, so they just went around and sort of passing them out to people walking down the aisles.
Yeah.
And I was amazed at how many of them. I walked by the garbage lady to throw my empty water bottle in. How many of them were in the garbage
Oh,
because they devalued their product when they did that.
yeah.
They totally devalued.
Uh,
So try not to give, if you're gonna donate books or give books to libraries, things like that, do it strategically.
Mm,
Don't do it just willy-nilly, just go out there just handing, because you're gonna devalue the work that you put into it by doing that.
yeah.
So, but no, we've given away a fair share, but it's always been strategic for us. It's
Mhm.
always a librarian who said, "Hey, listen," a parent came to me and said, "We really need this book in our library." And we'll say, "Listen, well, why don't you take one? Just check it out." So we do that from time to time. But I guess I made a note on that. That's why I wanted to bring that up to
Oh,
authors
I'm glad you
after
did.
after seeing that at that convention we did, and how many of them were just people walking around chunking them in the garbage. I thought, what a waste.
Mm,
That's so because those things are so expensive to print, you
yeah.
know. So
We went to NRB. Did you go to NRB this year? Have you
no,
ever
we
been?
didn't do that. Never been that
Okay.
one, done that one. And
Um,
which one is that? That's
it's the National Religious Broadcasters.
okay.
And I do recommend, especially for someone like you who's getting established in the Christian market, it's amazing. You meet everybody from the first time podcaster to all those famous people that we watch their podcasts. And I actually hired what do you call it? The person who gets you out there, a publicist or whatever. And he got me some interviews on podcasts. And we did give away our books because they kind of expect you to, because these are industry
Oh
leaders.
yeah, right.
And that was really different for me because I wasn't used to that. But I had 1 hour at the booth with the group I was with. I'm with the Advanced Writers and Speakers Association. We had a booth and we would have an hour where we would hand out our books to the different industry leaders. So people know that, and they'll come by, and if they're not an industry leader, if they're honest, they'll say, I'm just a wife, I'm just here, for fun, and you can decide whether to give your book to them or not.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but no, those kind of events, you're not there to sell books. If
Right,
you go to an
no.
event where you have to sell book and you start passing them out, it's bad.
Yeah,
And that
no,
was the
that's not what we do.
NRB, you said? That was
Yes, NRB. It was in February this year. It was in
okay.
Texas, and if even for a new writer, for me, it was good as a podcaster and writer because I learned a lot. You go to these
Yes.
great conferences and you're rubbing elbows with people who know the industry and know the business. And there was everyone from self-published to those who are traditionally published. And I mean, we're talking big names were there, like on TV, movie star type people. And so you're meeting everybody in the industry. It's huge. It's
Yeah.
overwhelming. But I think things like that can be very good for indie writers if you know what you're doing. The first time out, you may not know what you're doing. The second time, if I go next time, I'm going to know much more what to do and who to look
Right.
for. And, there were people there that I really wanted to see that I just never saw them. And then they talk about it on their podcasts that they were there and they met so and so. And I'm like, I wanted to see you. But it was so much fun because I got to, with the publicist's help, get on podcasts I never even knew about. They weren't even on my radar.
Right.
So that was fun too. So that's something to look into, or those kinds of, and I'm going to I forget the exact name of it, but in August, I'm going to the ASA, Advanced Writers and Speakers Association conference, and then right next to it, they bump into each other in the same venue, is their religious promoters. I mean, they have the what's the word? I can't think. Like bookstore
The,
people,
is that
Christian bookstore people.
CRA, the Christian Retailers Association?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I'm going to
that
their
sounds right.
conference.
August in Georgia.
Yeah, it's in Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
So
we're actually. I think today Jade got an email from them. We're thinking about going to that one.
it's very reasonably priced. I was surprised compared to some of the others. I thought it was very reasonable. We'll be there. So if you're there, we'll say hi.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Well,
And I've got
well,
three of my books are entered in their contest. So hopefully I'll win some awards with them. I haven't won their award yet, so I've got
It's
some.
so much to keep up with, isn't it?
Oh my
You,
goodness.
it's just it's constant every day. I think we missed the deadline. Oh, yeah, it's just there's just so much to keep up with, and trying to pick the ones that are strategic to what you're doing and
Right.
where you want to go with it is so hard to do.
That's true.
But it's a lot. It's overwhelming. But
But
anyway,
it's so much fun. It is overwhelming, but I love what we do, and I
yeah,
love seeing lives affected by reading our books. I mean, what's better than that? That's just amazing.
yeah.
Whether a child's encouraged to read more or they're affected by the story or whatever, I just thank God for that calling and that opportunity. And I just think it's an amazing thing. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much. I
Oh, thank you
appreciate
for
you
having me.
sharing
This
with
was
us.
fun. This
And
was
we'll,
fun. I'm getting more and more used to this. So this will be
yeah, you did great.
okay.
Well, we will talk to you soon at probably another event soon. I'll be in Texas or somewhere.
Yep, solid. So we're going to be in Round Rock, I think, in 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to be at the Great Homeschool in Round Rock at the
Yeah, we'll be there
Kalahari.
too. Yep.
Yep. So we'll see you there.
All right. Take care.
All right, Terry. Thank you.